Hi guys, how are you doing today? Hope you are having a sunny day. Ready for some new drama from Askalawyer? Let's go to the first one, about OP's mother-in-law, who demands OP supports her late husband's affair partner because her husband is suing her, as children she told him were his are OP's late husband's, and OP is somehow responsible for that. Listen to the story, guys, to find out all the details, and of course to hear my insights. Enjoy the stories, and don't forget to like and subscribe. And of course, don't forget to leave a comment. My late husband and I were married for 3 years and dated for 10. We had 2 babies, 3 male and 9-month-old male. He was the love of my life, and I thought that I was his. He was funny, smart, and kind. He loved our children dearly, and I never suspected that he could have had a mistress or a double life. Long story short, he died from virus last week, after almost a month in the hospital. His death came so sudden because he was getting better, and we were waiting for his discharge that same week. My in-laws, mother-in-law, father-in-law, and brother-in-law, 23 male, are so crushed. He was their oldest, and there's nothing I can say or do to make their heart feel less heavy. They found hope and comfort in our children, and I invited them to stay with us for the following weeks, so they can get out of the house their son grew up in. I know that our home isn't any better, but at least they aren't overwhelmed with memories every time they look at some corner of the room. My mother-in-law said that there was something important we needed to discuss before I invited them into my home. She said that my husband had been seeing another girl for the past 2 years, that she was 22 now, married and had a boy, and was currently pregnant, that the boy was his, and she was 100% the other was too, but they had to run a test. She tried to talk to me about being able to love multiple people, that my husband had provided for us successfully, and that her other grandchildren deserved to be looked at too. My father-in-law and brother-in-law didn't know about this, and the two of them berated her after I started to cry. It was honestly so awful. I asked her to leave, and my father-in-law followed her out to keep her safe. My brother-in-law stayed with me. She came back yesterday. Apparently, my husband's other children aren't registered as his, because the girl told her husband that they were his. That's why they married. He's gonna sue her, and they want me to support her, because my husband left us well off. I've nothing against those kids, I swear it. But this is a messed up situation, and it's too fresh. I don't want to support her. I don't want to pay for her lawyers, and I want to cut my mother-in-law off. My father-in-law, brother-in-law, and my parents agree with me. But I don't want this to be a rushed decision, so I'm asking for any help and advice I can get. Edit. I forgot to add when she visited us. She came this morning with a baby in her arm and a big belly. She wanted to talk to me, but I asked her to leave. She tried to play the "I loved him too" card. So I said if she didn't leave immediately, I was going to call the police. My father-in-law heard the commotion and came to see what was happening. I left him to deal with her, and I don't know what happened after. OP needs to get a lawyer, make sure her money is safe, cut her mother-in-law off, and let side piece sort her own messy life out. Not OP's circus, not OP's monkeys. This is the risk you take as a side piece. Those kids are side piece and side piece's husband's responsibility. OP has no obligation to support his mistress and her children. If OP's mother-in-law is so concerned about her other grandchildren, she should find the money to support them. And now let's see if the community agrees with me. Pepper says, "I'm so sorry you're going through all of this. Since mother-in-law is so enamored with her, she can support her. I don't see how suing you for support is possible, as you didn't have the children and have no parental rights or responsibility. Get a lawyer as soon as you can." It's all mine now says, "If everyone involved apart from your deranged mother-in-law is telling you the same thing, then I think you can take it as good advice. You don't owe this woman anything. Your husband did. And he isn't here anymore to lie, cheat, and betray you on her behalf. So just ignore her as much as possible. The problem with that is your mother-in-law. So I agree the best thing to do is just block her and carry on with your life." Mama K 2011 says, "Not the a-hole. Let mother-in-law support the mistress, since she apparently knew of, supported, and helped hide your husband's infidelity. Completely cut mother-in-law off, and speak to a lawyer immediately." 34 female. Am going through a divorce with my soon-to-be ex-husband Jack, 31 male, and we have 3 kids, 5 male, 3 male, and 1 female. My soon-to-be ex and I have been together since 2013 and had a very loving relationship with each other. We did everything together. We owned a smoothie shop together. We've closed it down. I wanted to be a stay-at-home mother, and my ex wanted to become an electrician. I have a really cool relationship with his family, and his family consists of 2 sisters, Ollie, 34 female, Riley, 30 female, one brother Cain, 27 male, grandmother 75 female, and the siblings' partners Ollie's partner Mason, 35 male, Riley's partner Samson, 30 male, and Cain's partner Hazel, 23 female. They all have kids as well. Ollie and Mason both have daughters from a previous relationship, both 10 female, and have a 7-month-old daughter. Riley and Samson have a 7 female and 3 male, and Cain and Hazel have 2 male. Now, I was always close to everyone except for Hazel. She's very quiet and usually keeps to herself. She's good with the kids. She and I don't really talk that much. She's a very attractive girl and always have people looking at her. She's very close to everyone and is very nice to me. The reason we are divorcing is because I saw Jack's phone. He was messaging other women. He didn't physically cheat, but still cheated, and I saw him sending text messages to his group chat with his friends. And he texted that if he wasn't married and would try to pursue Hazel, how she is super curvy, that he considered that his favorite thing about her. She has natural breasts. She's the prettiest girl ever. He proceeds to text very graphic things he would do to her, and never wanted to do with me. I confronted him, and he tried to deny and say he was drunk. He was very apologetic and wanted to do couples counseling. I rejected that and went for a divorce. I posted on Facebook that I was going through a divorce. Many of my friends contacted me and was there for me. Mason and Samson soon followed as well. I also received one from Cain and Hazel. I got upset when Hazel sent me one, and I blew up on her, telling her to mind her business, and she was the reason Jack and I were divorcing. I told her I hated her, and never to be near my children again, and to not flirt with Jack. She didn't respond, but left me on red. I got a message from Cain telling me to duck off, and that I was out of line, and that Hazel has never flirted or have any desire to sleep with Jack, nor is she cheating like Jack, and that I need to keep Jack on a hook and leave both of them the duck alone. He then blocked me after I sent the screenshot, and so did Hazel. Everyone in the family has been very strict on me now. Riley messaged me that I was cold-hearted and that it was Jack who caused the divorce. I would have thought they would be on my side, as I was in the family much longer than Hazel. Am I the a-hole for what I did? Well, in my opinion, this had nothing to do with Hazel. It doesn't matter if one of the reasons OP is divorcing him is because he had the crush on Hazel. From OP's own words, it seems like Hazel was a pleasant woman. Hazel had no control over what Jack wrote. At some point, I would contemplate an apology to Hazel, as this is a situation created by Jack. And now let's hear the community's opinion. Alternative Gurr says, "You're the a-hole. You were hurt and projecting your anger on her. It's not her fault that your husband is checking out his brother's wife and has fantasies about her." ESL Sucks says, "Obviously you're the a-hole. She literally did nothing. Your husband objectified her, and you are basically blaming her for existing. If anything, she is a victim in this. Yeah, I get it, you are grieving and not thinking straight, but that does not justify you being an a-hole when she was literally reaching out to be kind." My mom and my wife do not get along. That is actually an understatement. They can hardly manage to be in the same room. But we get along great with the rest of the family, as does my mom, and neither is willing to sit out of family stuff. My wife does get overwhelmed by my mom, and everyone tends to gather around my mom. So our therapist suggested that she bring something she can do when she needs a break. So she's been bringing crochet. My mom got annoyed by this and said it was rude and something a 5-year-old would do, and said if she ever brought something to our house and tried to go into the other room and ignore us, we would raise hell. To be fair, that is kind of true. My wife is really big on manners, but doesn't always uphold the standards she holds my mom to. So I told my mom that wasn't true. I joked my mom could learn how to crochet, because none of her hobbies are something you can bring to someone else's house. Recently, we hosted a family get-together, and my mom had a large bag when she showed up. I honestly didn't think anything of it. We were all outside, and my mom casually told me she needed a break. So I said that was perfectly fine. See, no double standards. She can go inside and chill. My uncle later went in to get a beer and came out laughing and said I need to see what my mom is doing. My wife and I ran inside, and my mom was working on an art project at our coffee table. She had resin, glitter, beads, shells, and my wife lost it and began screaming. My mom said we were being hypocrites, and she was doing exactly what my wife did. Her hobby is just messier. I told her to get out, cussed at her, and said she was banned. She said okay, and then told us the glitter on the floor isn't her fault. Her husband did that. I told her to get the duck out and never come back. She got glitter and tiny beads on the rug and resin on the table. My aunt and uncle defended her and said I was being unfair, and my wife is super rude to bring crochet to family stuff. My aunt said if my mom is banned from our house, we are banned from hers, and I can't go to Thanksgiving. My cousins tried to defend me, but my aunt was serious. Even my cousins after the fact said it was kind of funny and not that big of a deal. Edit. Previously, we did get mad at my mom for trying to remove herself from situations. She also calls my mom out every time she is rude, but to be honest, can be pretty rude to my mom as well. She also got mad my mom wouldn't eat her cooking and called her a toddler, but went to my mom's feast of 7 fishes on Christmas Eve and was gagging because she hates seafood. Biggest blowout was probably when my wife got mad at my mom for jumping into some guy's arms and kissing him, and then later that night sat on my lap in front of everyone, and my mom was like, "What the duck?" My wife totally missed the point and was like, "Are you jealous because I took your son?" My mom didn't talk to us for a while after that one and almost skipped our wedding. Well, OP's family dynamic sounds messy, and I'm not just talking about the mess OP's mom left on OP's coffee table. What OP's mom did was deliberate and spiteful to OP's wife. OP's wife is just following her therapist's advice. I don't blame OP at all for banning her from his house. And now let's hear the community's opinion. Professor Moxie says, "Not the a-hole. Lots of people crochet and knit when they're at social gatherings. There's nothing rude about it at all. Was your wife leaving the room to do it, or was she only using it to keep her cool around your terrible mother? Either way, your wife is still not the a-hole. Your mom is the a-hole here. She's being completely unreasonable about your wife crocheting, and bringing some huge messy art project to your house was 100% purposeful and passive-aggressive. Not even passive, just aggressive. Now she's seen the consequences of that, and it sounds like you aren't missing out on much not having her around for the holidays." Fenris Wolf 9 says, "Your mother sounds like a spiteful child. I'm going with not the a-hole just for that. Your wife isn't going to ruin any property with yarn." Grrr says, "I'll go against the grain here with an everyone sucks here. Yes, your wife isn't the a-hole for crocheting, and your mom is the a-hole for bringing glitter into your home. But in general, your mom and your wife both sound like exhausting, unpleasant people to be around. Why is your wife so obsessed with your mom following etiquette? How is she getting overwhelmed by a person you describe as introverted? Why is your mom so theatrically offended by crocheting? Why do you and your wife jump straight to screaming and banning people from the house just because a guest does something rude? Is there a lot of alcohol involved? And are you being filmed for a reality TV show?" I, 27 female, found out I am pregnant via at-home tests late on Thursday afternoon. I recently moved to the area my boyfriend grew up in. I do not have a doctor here yet. My boyfriend and his mom are away visiting family across the country. I am very close with his mom and have also gotten close with her best friend, female 45-ish, who is currently living temporarily with her locally and is an ER doctor here. On Thursday evening, after countless unanswered calls, I was debating going to the ER for testing, ultrasound. Not ideal, obviously, but I needed to see a specialist ASAP. For quick context on why I had to react quickly, I had an ectopic pregnancy a few years ago that resulted in sudden internal bleeding and a near-death emergency surgery. I am very high risk for another one. So after discussing this with my boyfriend and taking his advice, I called the friend of his mom who was home and off duty. I explained my situation very directly and calmly and asked for her direction. She told me to not rush to an ER and gave a referral for the next day. I expressed how appreciative I was. She said call if anything came up that evening, and the conversation ended amicably. Fast forward 3 days. I received a text at 12 a.m. from her. Here it is with some redactions for privacy. Quote, "I feel that it is necessary that I make you aware of a few things. I feel that it was wholly inappropriate that you involve me in your personal drama. X, boyfriend's mom, is my best friend. I was placed in a no-win situation by a person who clearly doesn't understand boundaries. A person who relies on the fact that people are kind and accommodating even when their personal comfort is compromised. The sweet, unassuming, innocuous, helpless little girl act is just that, an act. What I see is a subversive, manipulative sociopath person who had to go out of her way to ruin X's vacation. And you used me to do it. Because you clearly have issues with boundaries, I'm going to make this crystal clear. I'm not interested in any further interaction with you. The doctor, her last name, free clinic is closed. You have crossed the line, and I do not want to be saddled with your issues, medical or otherwise. There is no need to respond to this text." End quote. While calling her was a difficult choice and my last resort, the more I've sat on the text message, the more I've started to think I'm an a-hole for not considering further the position I was putting her in. I can see how she felt I overstepped given her friendship with X. I spoke with X on my own on Friday, but that's irrelevant here. On the other hand, I can't shake that, especially as a medical professional. She reduced my health concerns I shared with her over a risky pregnancy to drama in a 12 a.m. text. I know I was asking a huge favor, but I thought in the moment it was the best option in a tough situation where I was alone. Am I the a-hole for involving someone who I now very clearly know didn't want to be involved in my pregnancy situation? Clarification edit. Our phone call was at 5 p.m., not 12 a.m. 12 a.m. is when I received the text message 3 nights later. Happy Banana 134 says, "You're the a-hole. Emergency department just told me to come into the emergency department, which I was hoping to avoid by making an appointment for Friday with an OBGYN. I asked the friend for a big favor, help referring me to an OBGYN that could see me before the weekend. You didn't call her for advice. You called for a favor because you wanted a referral. You didn't want to follow ER's advice. That did put her in an uncomfortable position. To her credit, she helped you, but I can absolutely see why she feels her boundaries were stomped over here. I think her text to you was spot on, and you do need to reflect on this behavior. I wouldn't even phone one of my best friends asking them to do something like this for me." Sparkling Perry says, "Everyone sucks here, with qualifiers. Medical people work hard enough without being consulted by every acquaintance. I can understand them having firm boundaries, and I can understand people pushing those boundaries in emergencies. So I was kinda leaning towards you being slightly socially the a-hole, in an understandable, sometimes you gotta be the a-hole kind of way. But unless you've left out a bunch of drama, the message you received is pretty unnecessarily vicious. I guess she was just lashing out because she didn't feel able to say no at the time. I'd shrug your shoulders and just leave it." None the Wiser says, "I don't fully understand her issue, but her text is incredibly cruel, so for that reason, not the a-hole. The sweet, unassuming, innocuous, helpless little girl act. I mean, wow. Talk about a lack of empathy. Obviously, she's not obligated to give you medical advice, but she's 45. She should know how to set boundaries. Everyone I know who works in the medical field sets that boundary with friends and family. It's a necessary skill set." Update. My boyfriend and I, both equally confused, spoke with his mom. She was shocked by the text's language, but, as many on my original post guessed, she knew missing context and wasn't entirely surprised the friend reached out. Here's what she shared. Doctor friend called her Thursday night, told her I was pregnant, high risk, post-ectopic, and asked if she knew. On Friday, she called again, and the tone was definitely different. Expressed she was very upset with me. Thinks I was irresponsible to have not been on birth control given I had an ectopic rupture in the past. Was questioning what kind of person I am, and was concerned boyfriend and mom are being severely misled. Boyfriend's mom received many texts and 2 more phone calls on the trip. My boyfriend asked if he could have the texts so he could understand exactly what was happening. She said yes. One text in particular sums up the gist of the doctor's perspective and helps clarify why she sent me what she did. This all feels irresponsible, yet calculated. I keep thinking I could get a call that she's not responsive, drive over there, and find her dead with her dog running around. I know how much that would devastate boyfriend. I was there for his mourning of one of his best friends passed away tragically from drowning a few years ago. I can't see him and you go through that pain again, and feel I'd be a bad friend to not share this concern about her character, intentions, and health. No point in sharing my views on this here. More importantly, how did the conflict conclude? My boyfriend said he will never speak to the doctor. He feels like doctor used him to manipulate his mom into mistrusting me. He is furious that, if the doctor cares as much about him as she said in the messages, she did not text or call him once to make sure she had her facts straight. Birth control assumption, incorrect. Or even to make sure I was not dead with my dog running around. What the actual duck? His mom will handle it however she wants to. That is private between her and her best friend, as I think it should be. Personally, I think I was the a-hole for calling the doctor, all context now considered. I regret it. And while I will remain baffled by her series of decisions made between our call and her text, even now knowing where her head was, the best I can do is move on.